Even in the end, he wasn't defeated.
Yep.
Even in the end, right? Because death is not defeat. It's just the turning of a page or the closing of a book.
Right. You got to give them love. Be like, thanks. I appreciate you.
You love them.
Yeah, I do.
Hey, everybody. Welcome into Folklore and Flourish. You are here with Jane and Mark. It is the start of a brand new week. So before we jump into our topic for March 15th, we are going to go ahead and recap on what spring is. So as we know, March is kind of our transition month. March is kind of bleh. We see it in today's day and age because that's what the weather feels like a lot of the time in a lot of places. But March is a hugely important month because it's a transition month. So that's where we get like the congestion, where our bodies are, maybe they aren't getting sick, but they're recognizing the change. So our body's chemistry is, of course, shifting to accommodate that. So like that, at the beginning of every new week, I am trying to pop back into our overall topics, our overall themes, because it's not just the day themselves. Easily pick days, for example, the 17th, St. Patrick's Day. But there's way more to it than just that, right? Of course, we're going to honor parts of that culture as well, but it's a lot about the regardless of faiths, our belief system, our spirituality. The seasons have guided our cultures since the beginning of time. So that's kind of why I wanted to make sure that we take time at the beginning of every week to reflect on why.
Right.
So with spring is all about creation and crossing. This is the season of emergence, enchantment, and becoming. It carries themes of creation, hidden worlds, and sacred trial, where life stirs, veils thin, and destiny begins to test its shape. Emotions rise into wonder, desire, courage, and the transformation. Spring invites growth through mystery and choice, asking us to step across thresholds, answer callings, and return changed by what we dare to face. And as you can tell, like I'm obviously reading on this book that made for this podcast. It's not a full force with all the stories separate because we have 365 days, and I also put in there the importance of the seasons and stuff. So when you see me reading that, I'm not necessarily reading on something that was created elsewhere. This is all
No, she
self-created.
designed all that.
Yeah, and of course I didn't have the ideas that that's what spring is, but I did really try to honor all cultures and what spring overall is. The veil thinning in both winter and spring. You're going to see it in fall. You're going to see different ones lifting in summer. But this is about the creation, life reawakening or awakening for the first time, things stirring within us.
Well, like just like us, look at what we're doing, like with the garlic. You know, so like it's when stuff is starting to want to grow.
And the universe will tell us,
Yeah.
I'm wanting this.
Yes.
Something is stirring within us. So with that, we carry into March, our first month, and this is our hero. The biggest transition is figuring out we're going to be the hero in our own stories. And so with the hero, it's all about calling and prophecy, trials and gatekeeping, burden and leadership, betrayal and endurance, courage and sacrifice, moral choice, destiny fulfilled, and standing in your true role. Every one of us are heroes when we stand in our true role. And so that's what this all is. And it's really exciting because I tried to do this, and of course I always forget until I reread that. But today is the betrayal, right? So one of our core themes, I did try to kick off each week with one of the core themes across.
I wore a hat specifically for it.
The betrayal.
Something fishy going on here.
Yes. So we've gone through our week one, the call, our hero being called to do something. Then we went to week two, the test, where we went through some very interesting, fun, lighthearted, and also some terrible loss in that. But at the end of our second week, we've got all of these trials and tribulations of who am I and fight with the stand. What do I stand for? What do I stand against? So that's huge. And now we're into the betrayal. That's important too, because the betrayal doesn't, there are many times we may feel betrayed, but it may be a betrayal later in our journey, right? So after we feel like we've already been tested and we've come up and this is where I stand and everything's cool, that's when the world shakes us,
Yep.
right? And this week, oops, let me get to this. This week, though, is all about the turn. So as we are at the betrayal, this is when our hero's journey turns. Something causes a huge shift, right? And that's usually when we start to see the end goal, the end of our mission, our purpose. When that turn happens, a lot of stuff becomes clear to us because we start to weed out the people, especially today with the betrayal, starts to weed out those people that they aren't here for the mission. And so with that today, our theme is trust shattered. It's another really hard topic because usually when we think of betrayal, it's people very close to us, right? Because we don't put too much trust into strangers, into acquaintances, family and friends. We tend to put all of our trust in. So we have some deep betrayals that will come up, as well as we have some interesting dynamics that we see in a lot of the world today, where jealousy is the driving point of betrayal. Of I am a stranger, but because you haven't given I want, I'm going to betray your whole mission, starting lies and kind of stuff too. So with that, though, we have the betrayal for our March 15th theme, and we're jump right in. So we're going to look with this trust shattered is biblical, Welsh, Japanese, and Hindu folklore today. So we will see you after these 4 stories. Before we begin, I want to take a moment to honor the cultures behind the stories we are about to explore. The tales shared here come from many peoples, lands, and traditions. I do not change these stories to fit modern expectations or to align with today's social standards. Instead, I present them as they were told, sometimes beautiful, sometimes harsh, sometimes challenging. We are not here to judge the past, but to understand it, to listen, to learn, and to honor the ancestors who carried these stories forward. We also share stories from various religious traditions. These are presented in their historical and spiritual context, with respect for their beliefs that they represent. Every culture deserves respect, context, and acknowledgement, and this space is dedicated to doing exactly that. Story 1: Judas and the Kiss in the Garden. In the final days of Jesus of Nazareth, the city of Jerusalem was filled with tension. Pilgrims from many lands had gathered for the festival of Passover, and the narrow streets overflowed with voices, animals, and merchants. Roman soldiers stood watch along the walls and temple courts, ready to respond to any sign of unrest. Among the crowds moved Jesus and the small group of followers who had traveled with him across the region of Galilee and Judea. For several years, they had listened to his teachings about mercy, justice, and the coming kingdom of God. Many believed he was a prophet. Some believed he was the long-awaited Messiah. But not everyone welcomed his influence. Religious authorities in Jerusalem had grown increasingly uneasy with his growing reputation. The crowds that followed him stirred fear that rebellion might rise under Roman rule. Among the 12 disciples who traveled closest to Jesus was a man named Judas Iscariot. Like the others, Judas had left his ordinary life behind to follow the teacher. He shared meals with the group, traveled the dusty roads of the countryside, and listened to the same lessons spoken beside lakes and hillsides. Yet something within him had begun to change. According to the gospel accounts, Judas secretly approached the chief priests in Jerusalem. "What are you willing to give me," he asked, "if I deliver him to you?" The priests agreed to pay him 30 pieces of silver, a sum that echoed the ancient price of a slave. But the authorities faced a difficulty. Jesus often spoke in public among large crowds. Arresting him in the daylight could provoke unrest. They needed a quiet moment. They needed a way to identify him in the darkness. Judas offered them a sign. Later that night, Jesus and his disciples walked outside the city walls to a grove of olive trees known as Gethsemane. The garden lay along the slope of the Mount of Olives, where travelers often rested in the quiet of evening. There, Jesus prayed while the others waited nearby. The night air was still, but soon the silence broke. Torches flickered among the trees as a group of soldiers and temple guards approached the garden. At their head walked Judas. He stepped forward calmly and approached Jesus. "Greetings, Rabbi," Judas said. Then he leaned forward and kissed him on the cheek. The kiss was the signal. Immediately, the soldiers moved forward and seized Jesus. One of the disciples reached for a sword, but Jesus stopped them. The moment had already begun. According to the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus looked directly at Judas and spoke quietly. "Friend," he asked, "why have you come?" The question echoed through the dark garden, for the betrayal had not come from an enemy. It had come from someone who once walked beside him. From that moment forward, the path towards trial and crucifixion unfolded. Yet within the sorrow of that night lay a deeper truth. The wound of betrayal would become part of a story that reshaped faith for millions across the world. Story 2. Blodeuwedd and the Fall of Lay. Long ago in the myths of ancient Wales, the magician king, Mathfab Mathanwi, ruled the land of Gwynedd. Among his nephews was a powerful young hero named Blodeuwedd Goves, whose name meant plow of the skillful hand. Blau's life was shaped by a powerful curse placed upon him by his mother, Arianrod. Angered by circumstances surrounding his birth, Arianrod declared that her son would suffer 3 terrible restrictions. First, he would have no name unless she gave it. Second, he would never bear arms unless she herself armed him. Third, the most cruel of all, he would never have a human wife. Yet Hlu's uncles refused to let the curse determine his fate. The great magician, Gwydion, used clever tricks to force Arianrod to name and arm her son despite her resistance. But the final curse remained. Hlu could not marry any woman born of humankind. To overcome this, Math and Gwydion turned to magic. From the blossom of oak, broom, and meadow sweet, they created a woman of extraordinary beauty. Her name was Blodeuwedd. Her name meant flower face. Blodeuwedd was unlike any woman in the world. She had not been born into a family or raised among people. She had been formed from petals and spells, given life through enchantment. When Hlu first saw her, he was captivated. The two were married, and for a time their life together seemed peaceful. But Blodeuwedd's existence carried a hidden sorrow. She had not chosen her life. She had not chosen her husband. And as the years passed, something restless began to grow inside her. One day, a nobleman named Granu Pebber arrived when Hlu was away. Blodeuwedd welcomed him into the hall. As they spoke, an attraction formed between them. Soon, their secret meetings grew into love. But their love carried a dangerous problem. As long as Hlu lived, Blodeuwedd would remain bound to him. So the lovers began to consider the unthinkable. They would kill him. Yet Hlu was protected by powerful magic. He could not be killed indoors or outdoors. He could not be killed while riding or standing. He could not be slain during day or night. His death required conditions so strange they seemed impossible. Blodeuwedd approached her husband carefully. Pretending concern for his safety, she asked him how such a man might ever be killed. Hlu, trusting her completely, explained. The attack would have to occur at twilight, neither day nor night. He would have to stand with one foot upon a goat and the other upon the edge of a bath. Only then could a specially crafted spear strike him. Blodeuwedd listened closely. Later, she shared every detail with Gron. Together, they prepared the trap. At the appointed time, Blodeuwedd convinced Hlu to demonstrate the strange conditions he had described. As Hlu balanced himself exactly as he explained, Gron emerged from hiding. He hurled the enchanted spear. The weapon struck its mark. But Hlu did not die. Instead, he transformed into an eagle and flew away into the sky. For a long time, he wandered wounded and alone until his uncle, Gwydion, eventually found him. Through powerful magic, Gwydion restored Hlu to human form. Then justice followed. Gron was challenged and defeated. Blodeuwedd's fate was different. Because she had been created from flowers, the punishment reflected her unnatural origin. Gwydion transformed her into an owl, a creature forced to live in darkness, shunned by other birds. From that day forward, the owl became a symbol in Welsh tradition of isolation and sorrow. And the tale, Blodeuwedd, became a reminder that betrayal can grow from wounds never spoken aloud. Okay. Story 3. Akechi Mitsuhide and the Fall of Nobunaga. During the turbulent periods of Japanese history, known as the Sengoku era, powerful warlords struggled for control of the country. For generations, Japan had been divided by conflict. Regional leaders, called daimyo, ruled their own territories, and alliances shifted constantly as armies clashed across the land. Among these warlords rose one of the most formidable figures in Japanese history. His name was Oda Nobunaga. Nobunaga was known for his fierce determination and brilliant military strategies. He believed that Japan could be unified under a single rule, ending the long age of chaos that had consumed the country. Through a series of decisive battles, Nobunaga conquered powerful rivals and expanded his influence across central Japan. Many feared him, many admired him, and many served him. Among his most trusted generals was a man named Akechi Mitsuhide. Mitsuhide had proven himself a capable and loyal commander. He fought in several campaigns alongside Nobunaga and helped secure important victories that strengthened his lord's growing power. Yet the relationship between the two men was not without tension. Historical accounts suggest that Nobunaga could be harsh toward his retainers. His expectations were demanding, and those who failed him often faced humiliation or punishment. Over time, resentment may have grown within Mitsuhide's heart. In the summer of 1582, Nobunaga paused his military campaign and rested at a temple in Kyoto called Honnoji. The temple stood quietly in the city, surrounded by gardens and wooden halls. Nobunaga arrived there with only a small guard, believing himself safe among allies. Meanwhile, Mitsuhide received orders to march his army west to assist another general. Instead, he made a decision that would echo through history. He turned his army toward Kyoto. As his soldiers marched through the night, Mitsuhide reportedly spoke a phrase that became famous in Japanese history. The enemy is at Honnoji. Before dawn, Mitsuhide's forces surrounded the temple. The attack began suddenly. Flames spread across the wooden buildings as arrows and gunfire filled the air. Inside the temple, Nobunaga realized what had happened. He had been betrayed by one of his own generals. Outnumbered and trapped within the burning temple, Nobunaga understood that escape was impossible. According to Japanese tradition, he chose the path of a warrior. Rather than allow himself to be captured, Nobunaga performed seppuku, the ritual act of self-sacrifice practiced by samurai to preserve honor. The flames of Honnoji consumed the temple as the warlord's life came to an end. Yet Mitsuhide's victory was brief. Within only 13 days, another general loyal to Nobunaga, Toyotomi Hideyoshi, marched rapidly across the country and defeated Mitsuhide in battle. Mitsuhide was killed while fleeing the battlefield. His rebellion had lasted less than 2 weeks. But the betrayal at Honnoji changed Japan forever. Nobunaga's dream of unification did not die with him. Instead, it passed to the generals who followed, eventually leading to the rise Tokugawa shogunate, which would rule Japan for more than 2 centuries. Yet the name Akechi Mitsuhide would forever remain tied to one of the most famous acts of betrayal in Japanese history. Story 4. Surpanaka and the Spark of War. In the ancient epic Ramayana, a prince named Rama lived in exile in the forest of India. Rama was the rightful heir to the throne of Ayodhya, but through a twist of royal intrigue, he had been banished for 14 years. Accepting his fate with honor, Rama left the palace and traveled into the wilderness with his loyal wife, Sita, and his devoted brother, Lakshmana. Together they lived quietly among the forests and rivers, far from intrigues of the royal court. But deep within those forests lived beings far more dangerous than wandering kings or rival princes. Among them was a powerful demoness named Sorpananka. Sorpananka was the sister of the mighty demon king, Ravana, ruler of the golden island kingdom of Lanka. One day, Sorpananka wandered through the forest and saw Rama. His presence immediately captured her attention. Handsome, strong, and radiant with a calm authority, he seemed unlike any man she had encountered before. Sorpananka approached him boldly. She declared her desire and asked Rama to become her husband. But Rama gently refused. He explained that he was already married to Sita. Smiling, he pointed towards his brother, Lakshmana, and suggested she might instead approach him. Sorpananka turned to Lakshmana. Lakshmana laughed and declined her as well. Radbikana's admiration quickly turned into humiliation. Anger flared within her. Furious at the rejection, Sorpananka's rage focused on the woman she believed stood in her way, Sita. Sorpananka lunged forward, intending to attack Rama's wife. Lakshmana reacted instantly. Drawing his blade, he struck Sorpananka and cut off her nose and ears, punishment meant to stop her assault and send her fleeing. Humiliated and wounded, Sorpananka ran into the forest, crying out in fury. She did not forget what had happened. Instead, she went to her brother Ravana and told him what had occurred. But her story did not come calmly. She spoke with anger and exaggeration. She described Sita not only as the cause of her humiliation, but as a woman of extraordinary beauty, worthy of the greatest king in the world. Her words ignited Ravana's pride and desire. If Sita was truly so remarkable, he reasoned, then she should belong to him rather than to an exiled prince wandering the forest. Soon, Ravana devised a plan. Through trickery and deception, he kidnapped Sita and carried her away to the island of Lanka. This single act set into motion one of the greatest wars in Hindu mythology. Rama gathered allies across the world. Armies of warriors in Benares, monkey warriors, marched toward Lanka. Bridges were built across the sea, battles shook the heaven, and the conflict between Rama and Ravana would become one of the defining struggles of the epic. Yet the spark that ignited the entire war began with a moment of humiliation and anger in the forest. A moment when wounded pride transformed into vengeance. Hey everybody, welcome back in. Hope you enjoyed those 4 stories with the betrayal. Before we kick it off today with our Betrayal of Trust Shattered, I want to take a minute to address something within our novel. Our novel, The Betrayal, this is kind of where we take a huge creative jump. There were some gaps in a lot of the Snow White stories, obviously. The oral traditions and tellings of those have changed throughout time. Within our book, though, we get to see some different dynamics. Like, why is Grumpy such a beloved character? What if Grumpy was more involved with the family than we knew, specifically the evil queen, right? So we have a little bit of a difference of where the evil queen comes from in our book. She's a sister. We don't change the evil queen's goal or anything like that, but she is a sister, and we get to see some different creative strides that we took with Grumpy and the sister in terms of betrayal. I think that it adds more substance to our love of Grumpy.
Yeah.
Our just accepting hairless of him being like a negative Nancy or anything like that. And so if you have read our novel or if you plan to, please let us know how you think of that little twist. It was a very, very few things we changed, but it made a huge difference to the story.
Yeah.
It somehow gave me closure, I think, in Snow White's tale. It really did. Especially, it's kind of funny because right after we made it, that's when the movie was put out, the live action, right? Was right around the same time, if not a little before we did our book. And still, it kind of stayed with the stuff we've all seen before. We got to add a little bit something extra. So if you love that German mythology and you love Egyptian mythology and you like the tale of Snow White, but you are all looking closure, a big thing is the major betrayal. actually gives us closure. And I'm saying that because our lesson today is that truth arrives through wounds. So that's how our truth arrives. And that's the truth of our circle arises as well. So let's jump right into the first story. That first story is probably one of the largest referred to stories in terms of betrayal. Don't be a Judas.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And so as we read this, there's some obvious gaps. I told you guys that I was excited to talk about Judas because there's some different and some potential situations that happened with Judas, potentially. So let's look at it through this aspect of the major gap. We don't actually see where Judas is tempted. We just see that he goes in and asks what he can get.
Yeah.
Right? And why I'm saying that is because there are some adaptations there aren't adaptations. There are some texts that are just as old, if not older, that revolve around Judah that imply that him and Jesus had a talk of what Judas's role would be. Right? And when we see this, you could go, okay, then why did Jesus ask why he was there? All powerful. Maybe isn't Jesus, maybe God, right? We know in New Testament, the Father isn't as active in speaking to people. That's why Jesus is there, right? But what if some of those books, because we already know that there were books taken out.
Yeah.
We know that.
There's a lot of books taken out.
And we're currently going to Ethiopian, right? Because about that a while ago. It's pretty big. I've gone through a couple chapters, but obviously I'm going to start looking for Judas in different accounts of text. But within this story, Judas is the piece that starts Christianity. I mean, this betrayal truly did change billions and billions of futures and destinies.
Well, I think people look at the way the church was set up and with this story, they used to, because the way I grew up was in the Catholic Church. So seeing the story, I understood it for exactly the way the words are. And it's unfortunate because I always looked at it that way, never thought that what if. Because now to me, the what if makes more sense than the other story. Because to me, why would you? One, he already gave up everything. He had stuff. He was all right.
Judas?
Yeah,
Yeah.
before he met Jesus, he gave everything up to follow him. Why all of a sudden did he want stuff again? What?
It's believable that we as humans would go for money, right? So
Yeah, but not if you already gave it up.
No, that's what I'm saying. No, if he had to play this part, it's pretty easy for humans to go, I was greedy.
Now, that's why it makes more sense to me that they had a conversation saying, I need you to do this. And then why not say, why are you here in front of everybody to play the part?
Well,
Of
and what
course,
if it
I
wasn't?
need to make sure that you look innocent, that we didn't set this up. We didn't set this up. So I need to say this in front of everybody. Nobody realizes that you were a part of this, that you played your part, so you were safe.
No, take it this way. What if that question that's been echoing around, right? It's one of the questions that echoes, why are you here, Fred? What if that wasn't a inquiry? Because again, he knew with the guards already there. He asked after the guard. So what if that question was more of like, don't back out. Remember.
Yeah.
Why are you here?
Yeah.
It's because you have this unbelievable burden you will carry, and your name will be remembered for this. I here. Because truly, as a disciple who has given everything up, he has proved that he'll give something up. Peter denied him 3 times and was allowed the opportunity to grow and thrive and change his ways and become a huge speaker for Christ, right? Judas ended his life because the burden. I mean, it was such, so you knew what the cost was going to be. And 30, whatever, he just went and committed suicide.
Yeah, because it wasn't money.
It wasn't, and
That's the thing, and he's like, "Ooh."
and it makes believe I truly any ultimate being worth believing in loves all of its children.
Mhm.
Everybody holds a place. Everybody is essential. Without the devil, we wouldn't be able to find life.
Yeah,
Truly.
yeah,
Without these things to test us, we will never know what our character truly is. And so, let's say Judas wasn't told and he just betrayed. Did he end his life to go try to discuss? Maybe potentially. And I'm being serious of like, I don't maybe deserve to be here because look what I've done. I have to talk to him.
yeah.
And maybe, but not assuming that, no, I get to go to heaven, but he didn't need to live longer either, which makes me again believe that he knew. He
Mhm.
didn't need to live a long time. His name is still used in households around the world.
Yeah,
And it's like, well, don't be a Judas. Don't be a Judas. How different would the world be if we weren't allowed to use that? Because God, the Almighty, not acknowledged Judas's potential.
mhm.
He acknowledged what Judas could do and the burden he could bear. I really, as someone that I've been growing in my spirituality and faith, I do hope that that's the right version. I do hope that it's the correct one
Right. And not that it
because
was betrayal, but it was
because the other way doesn't make sense. It was for nothing.
yeah,
It was for absolutely nothing. And you already got that far. You already went that far. Why wouldn't you reap in the spoils if
yeah,
that's really what you wanted? And was willing to give him over for the price of a slave.
yeah.
And that's not any disrespect or anything. That's simply because if he's such a big threat and you know that you have to
Wouldn't
help
he
them
be
catch
worth
him,
more?
you would have definitely bargained for more, right? And you would have fought harder and you wouldn't have sold this person that people are following that might tumble down you want it.
Mm,
Yeah. And so I also think that there is a huge significance with the kiss, not just it being a sign for them, but again, to kiss the face of Jesus, part of me feels like he knew that was coming too.
mm.
Like it's time. Because maybe the discussion with Judas happened a long time ago when he first came in and he said, and when you kiss my cheek, it will be time. Because then he gets the opportunity to look at him dead in the eyes. Forget everyone else. Why are you here? You cannot bow. Because Jesus knows what's going to happen to him. He knows why have you abandoned me? Not once does Jesus go, why did Judas? Why did Judas? If he had it, he tells everyone to lower their weapons and everything. He goes and does what needs to be done and makes this huge sacrifice. I like to believe that Judas's sacrifice meant something as well.
Right.
And so I, I like with that one because it is the ultimate story of betrayal. There are three major faiths that come from the Abrahamic line. And no, I'm not at all saying that all of those faiths believe Jesus is the Messiah. All of us, though, recognize if this is the story that we're given, Judas is the epitome of betrayal.
Right.
Truly. And that's why we go, don't be a Judas, don't be a Judas. Be interesting, again, to be a fly for Judas, just follow him, and to see what his silence brought him. And maybe that's why he did end his life because he knew he couldn't stay silent forever. Maybe that's another reason. So let's go into the second one. Yeah, Blodeuwedd. So this is I looked this up because I'm not as familiar with this Welsh story. So the circumstances of the birth. Okay, so we hear that based on the circumstances of the birth, the mother puts curse on him.
Yeah.
So number one, this
Why?
mother had two children.
Okay.
He was the second one.
Okay.
The first one fled to the sea. Okay, so left. But the circumstances of this marriage was that she was pretty highly esteemed. Okay, she was on this, let me find her name. Arianrhod was highly esteemed. She was going to be the king's next virgin, not high virgin. That's pretty high rank in these ancient civilizations, right? Ancient, what's the word? Sorry. These are pretty high rank.
Priestess?
No, not a priest. it was just a high noble woman, maiden,
Mhm.
virgin maiden, right? So she had a high place. But in order to be that, you had to pass this magical test to prove that you were a virgin. You have to cross this line. If you cross it, nothing happens. Okay, right?
'Kay.
I'm really drawing this out because it doesn't need to be a myth for some of us to know what this story's like,
Mhm.
right? So she's using her purity to get ahead, right? That's why she is treated as better than a lot of others.
Mm.
That's why she's on higher pedestal. When she crosses that line, though, unfortunately, she proves herself to not be a virgin. So
Mhm.
she births two immediate pregnancies and births, right? This son is the second one. So she was hugely humiliated because she was claiming to be a virgin and step over. And then rather, that's right, take accountability. She decides to discard the one and then curse
Course.
this one. And that's because she felt she was so humiliated that she was going to betray this thing that
Yeah,
ruined
it
her.
was your fault, you
Yeah,
little thing.
because you ruined my name.
Yeah.
And so, because of that, and unfortunately, there are some cases where we see that, where we get so, some people have this resentment, their children, that
Yeah.
they ensure that their life is miserable,
Mm.
that well, you're gonna earn it. And not in the way that we would like to earn it and where it feels good to truly earn something, but you're going to change who you are to fit my beliefs if on anything. And we do see that a lot today. And then I remember you saying during this was just a sad story. He's cursed, so they had to create something. That creation had no choice.
Yeah, that's why it's sad because it's not only sad that he gets cursed that he can never have a wife of human that's human, but then the creation that they get for him to be happy never given. It was born to it. It was almost it's that destiny, right? So then its free will's gone. It finds what its love is outside
Right.
of what it was
Well,
forced to
someone
do.
that didn't possess her, own her. It was someone that I assumed listening to this that this was someone who acknowledged her as an individual, not as created for him.
Right. So that's the first time she felt that.
Mm,
Um, like looking at it from my point of view, it I don't like it. I don't like the man, the second man. Like he irks me because he knows.
mhm.
The flower thing, I feel bad for it because it's just this thing that's made up and it's like, hey, I was forced. I don't want to be here. Okay, I get that. But maybe just don't
But that
murder,
guy
dude.
put himself in the position,
Yeah, to put
obviously, to
her in the position
continue
to
to
yeah,
view her or to see her or
yeah.
to continue this and
But
use it.
some will say like destiny and stuff like that. And honestly, who am I to judge that situation except for
Right.
being in it?
But the Braille goes a little bit farther. There's,
Yeah, they try to murder.
of course, it's a different circumstance where we can't just go up and say, hey, you created me, but I'm not happy here.
Yeah.
I would like an opportunity. Maybe that wasn't something that was available during these days. I don't want to speculate on what Welsh
Yeah,
traditions and
I'm
customs were
sure
of
who
that time,
knows.
but maybe that wasn't the thing, but to turn yourself completely, so that you go be happy. And that requires you destroying someone else, killing the life of someone else. That's very extreme. That's a deep, deep betrayal for anybody because that's a line that I don't even like thinking of crossing. Of course, when I'm super angry, I'm like, yeah, I could totally whatever. But then you look at these stories and he was as a baby for the lives of his mother. And then a woman came in and tries to kill him.
Yeah.
And then he gets that he doesn't die,
Mhm.
that he gets an opportunity to become something that sees all for what it is, right? 'Cause becomes an eagle, correct?
Yep.
And then he
Becomes an
gets,
eagle until he finds his uncle, and his uncle heals him back into being a human.
yeah. And then what did it say right at the end? Um,
And then
I,
they turn but now I do like the fact that he comes back. The dude is like unalived. Sorry, you.
And he challenges him. He's like,
Yeah, he's
"Yep,
like, "Let's go,"
come on. If you're willing to kill me, then do it. Be a man."
because
Pretty much.
you had an opportunity when I wasn't paying attention, and now you see how hard it
And you
is.
used her. So cool. All right. You better hope he wins because you're not going to die. Fate, war, far worse than death. So she becomes an owl. And this is a culture where we see the owl as the symbol of being shunned by
Right.
us, alone, kind of disregarded, most life in the dark. And so even then, with that deep betrayal, he went, "Death is too kind. What you did." So
Mhm.
I got turned into a bird. Day, this majestic thing. You can live in the night. If you want to be in the dark, you want to play in the shadows, you want to be secretive. All right, then stay there.
Yeah.
See how it feels from all these others who see you for who you are and are like, "Mm-mm,
Mhm.
nope." And yeah, I do enjoy that he comes back and is like, I see things for how they are, and I truly was cursed, but at least I can clear this out.
Yep.
And then let's just go right into our third one. Story 3, this is something that, we've seen throughout wars, constantly, throughout major turning events, and I'd like to say wars constantly. I wish I had better education in, like, our history. When I was going to school, unfortunately, most of the stuff I've found and learned has been on my own. Teaching kids of that content, I had never even heard it before either, so it was kind of
Wow.
fun. This story is that classic betrayal of someone in command, and it's someone that's highly trusted
Mhm.
that does something, and they stand with their choice and they make it so quick that no one can do anything about it. But the best part of this story is that he lasted 13 days before he was taken out.
Yeah.
I loved that, regardless of leadership or anything, whatever it may be, was cowardly to do that. And then he clearly was impulsive, didn't think about it because he only lasted 2 weeks before another general was like, "Obviously, you can't be leader either because who can trust you? You can't
Either.
even serve the person of our country. You can't even serve your country
Mm.
without turning on it." And the biggest thing was he was trying to unite Japan. That's why he was killed. Like, this ruler was going to unite this under this period, and this guy's like, and it goes to show you just how strong that purpose was, because
Mhm.
someone else went, "Absolutely not."
Right.
May not have been him uniting it, but you're certainly not going to
Destroy
destroy
the
us. Yeah.
this feeling is too strong. That's the thing, like, that you can tie that into today where I truly believe we're trying to expand our consciousness to the point of you can't stop it. Like, there's all this negative stuff going on, and there's a lot of people just really watching that. But the more that we wake up and talk about stuff and elevate, the less people are going to start paying attention to the negative because we're going to get rid of that. We have to go through this yuck period like we're going through right now,
Mhm.
this veil. But then as soon as we come out on the other side, we're going to stop seeing a lot of that stuff.
Right. And this one too, we get to see a little bit of a peek because, of course, I've told you guys before, the samurai stuff will come in. Well, we get to see a little bit of that custom and tradition though too, where he's in this temple, it's done. He realizes it had to have been, it had to be someone trusted, probably this guy, right?
Mhm.
Because as a leader, you also get to learn your people. They may be higher up ranking wise, but there's some that you inevitably trust more. There are some that could be swayed easier.
Right.
Right. There are giants, but in the end, it was over for him, and he still had that choice of how he will. And he chose honorable Japanese death, right? That is a big custom with the samurais.
Yeah.
We as Americans saw, I feel like the most that we saw about it was like World War II, when we're talking about World War II and some of those interactions. But it goes to show that even when everything's falling apart, we do have a choice at the end. Not
Mm.
everything is taken from us. And he took that opportunity to go, "I didn't complete my mission, but I still am the people." I still
Yeah.
am my customs. I still am an honorable person that will choose this
Right.
because this is who I am. And so it was just like a last little, you may have betrayed me, but I went out. I went out right. And I do like that, how you said things more of positives in the end. And through that, I just could, Matter leader knew he was trapped and was going to die. And then till the very end, followed your traditions and customs and was like, no, I'm a man.
Yeah. Oh,
Like I'm a Japanese man. And this is how I go.
yeah, it's powerful.
And to find your leader and to go, yeah, even in the end, he wasn't defeated.
Oh,
Even in the end, right? Because death is not defeat. It's just the turning of a page or the closing of a book.
right.
But the last one comes from Hindu. Okay, so this one we see a little bit of betrayal through a jealous stranger. Okay, and it's important that we look at this, especially Lakshmana. I'm sorry, Lakshmana, because when he apologizes, or when he doesn't apologize, when he laughs, it's not a like we have today. And I'm saying we
Right.
because I see it in America a lot, especially
Well,
when you
that's
go,
how I felt when I heard the story. So just so
yeah,
you
just
guys are
take this
aware,
part.
this is how I felt. Like that's exactly the way she was talking. It's like I was like, is that how he meant it? It soaked it up, and it wasn't that. So the way it actually is how does it go now?
Oops. Um, so when he was laughing, he did it for a number of reasons. Okay. So let me just get to the kind of last part really quick. This incident or the incident that we were talking about here, where specifically he's laughing, is
Right.
highlighting the theme of honor and respect for women in the epic. So it was like, you're not good enough. Get out of
Hmm.
here. It was the way that you are behaving is absolutely inappropriate. And the things you're doing are so comical because it was that, desperation, that obsession that, well, why wouldn't you be with me? I'm the
Right.
greatest thing in your path right now. Like I'm the best thing in here, kind of is what I, and so it was more of a kind of how we laugh because someone is so aggressive with the way that they
It's like almost an
are doing.
uncomfortable laugh,
Yeah.
like,
And so it's, that's kind of what
yeah,
it was, at least from what we've looked into without reading the entire epic. But she was attempting to seduce him. He found her appearance and behavior to be comical and unappealing. Sometimes when we're uncomfortable, we do just laugh because what else do I do? Say you're unappealing.
yeah.
You're disgusting me.
Yeah, because sometimes your looks aren't what is appealing to someone. It is what your actions are showing who and what type of person you are. I believe that 100% because
Hmm.
I've seen attractive people that were very unattractive be- because of the person they were. And gosh, what movie is it? Like Shallow Hal. I
Oh
think is
yeah.
a great representation of that because he sees the very big girl for who she truly is on the inside
Uh-huh.
as a very beautiful person. And then he sees this one woman where she is just absolutely gorgeous as this like troll of a woman,
Yeah.
you know? So, like, that's what I'm envisioning when I'm saying all this, is you're
Right.
seeing exactly what you are. And if you are a negative, nasty person, I'm going to see you as a negative, nasty person. It doesn't matter what you look like.
And so it went a step further, and this is just another aspect of what we see in day-to-day life is when we are shut down, we're either like, I am the greatest thing, or that person's they're this or this, or threats.
Mm,
So the final thing is laughter was a display of confidence and disdain at her threats.
right.
So how powerful of a person she was, right? Her brother is like one of the major villains, right?
Yeah.
Rob, and she goes and she stirs this pot because she was offended at how people reacted to her behavior.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, she didn't like that anyone would say no to her. So she twisted it
Hmm.
to where she would hopefully benefit in the end, or a little I told you so. And we see it.
I think it was more. I don't think there was any benefit except for I'm going to get you now. because you made me feel a fool.
Right.
That's all.
And if they're gone, no one can say what really happened.
Yep.
And that's where we see people go, and I've had this a couple of times and, like, had these conversations with people where they're this or this. Oh, well, yeah, they were obsessed with me and, I had to let them down, all this stuff. But I know what happened, right? I've seen the messages from the other side, the other person involved. No, you're a crazy person. Like, you're sending threats, you're circling houses, like, you're being obsessive, and you're sitting here trying to give me a false story so that you discredit that person before they can share what really happened. We constantly do that, defaming people because they're embarrassed of
Right.
how they displayed themselves, of how they behaved and how people reacted.
Right.
That's all this story is to me, is someone wanted to do a little. If I can't have it, then no one can. And so she went above and beyond. And petty women, sometimes they go after the other female. It's not even the person that upset her. She went after the female. And it's like, that's just jealousy.
Yep.
And it's like, why would you want to be with someone, though, that doesn't want you? At the end of the day, you're going to sit here and take away who he was meant to be with, who he wanted to be with in this life. He still won't choose you. Like you said, there was no benefit for her.
No, zero benefit.
Other than
I
you
truly
just
believe.
don't get to survive. And what
Yeah.
happens in the end, she destroys your family.
Yep.
And we'll get more into those falls of Steph, mainly in autumn. We get to that. Actually, no, in summer we start to, especially in our fire month of August.
Yeah.
Yeah. But all four of those stories, our lesson was that truth arrives through wounds. Okay. And with the betrayal, rewind, I'm going to do the daily thread really quick. So with those, today we encounter the betrayal, the moment when trust fractures and the path of the journey changes direction. Judas approached Jesus in the garden, revealing how betrayal often arrives disguised as familiarity. Blodeuwedd turned against Hlu, showing how unspoken and resentment can transform love into treachery. Mitsuhide rose against Oda Nobunaga at Honnoji, proving that even powerful alliances can collapse when loyalty fractures. Surpanaka carried her humiliation to Ravana, igniting a war that would reshape kingdoms and destinies. What wound in your life has revealed a truth you can no longer ignore? So I'm going to repeat that question. This is an interesting thought, right? What wound in your life has revealed a truth you could no longer ignore? And then truth enters through wounds that are finally acknowledged. So it's not just recognizing it, it's acknowledging it. I mean, I've had where people have thought that I am a major betrayer to them because I started seeing what I couldn't stand for anymore, the patterns. And so I stepped away, right? I didn't do this kind of stuff where I took them out or anything like that, just walked away. But in their story, I am nothing but a Judas, but
Right.
a betrayer.
Right. I saw something not too long ago and I shared it with you, and I think we talk about it quite often is uh if you think about yourself in your story, you are someone's hero. You are someone's friend, daughter, wife,
Comic
husband,
relief.
whatever. But also, I'll guarantee you someone's enemy or someone's Judas. You are someone's just yuck. Like you
Someone's
did
Trojan
something
horse,
you
too.
did something to someone at some point in time where you made them upset. You did something for someone that made their day, and you were their hero, and you didn't even know it. And they have no clue who you are, just that you did something. So just know that there are millions versions of you out there and you don't even know it, and not even in the multiverse way of different things. It's just the way people look at you through that glass, through that different perspective. You are
And
every single version of yourself right here, right now.
that exact point is why it's not our place to rewrite someone else's perspective of us to their stories.
Yeah.
Well, I did this because it doesn't matter. This is how it influenced my story. So that's what I see you as.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there are some that truly I know because they're a little bit more active in their sharing of it, that they truly believe I am the biggest villain to them, that I love deeply, right? They were true friends when I was there and they were great people. I couldn't sustain that life anymore. But when you make that choice, sometimes you just have to walk away and go. I guess I just have to be a Judas in their story because ultimately it would have gotten worse had I stayed.
Yeah, because if you're growing and they choose to stay where they're at, that's not your life
Well,
anymore.
and even just growing in different directions of, hey, I love you, but what we had in common, neither of us can keep going the way we want to with that. You are hugely important, and I loved you, at the time. But when you walk away, you have to walk away. You have to allow yourselves to go and grow. And so, and no, I'm not sitting here going, they're wrong. I didn't betray them. I did. I did. And I don't want to relive the way I've hurt people and the hurt that I went through as well. But sometimes we have to acknowledge that about ourselves too,
Right.
like you said. So utilizing that moving forward with our question is, who changed me through betrayal? Who changed me through betrayal? And yeah, I'm going to look at some others, but with what we were just talking about, how did that old person change me through that betrayal too? I could
Mm.
look at and just think about, no, that doesn't mean we get to go, we should go message people and say, hey, remember when you were terrible or whatever? This is what you did to me. No, give yourself some credit too.
Yeah.
Just because someone betrayed you, they just broke open something that needed to be acknowledged.
No.
Every choice you made after is you.
That's what I say is like, it's almost like thank them, because had they not betrayed you, you wouldn't have had the drive to do what you are today. And I think if you're in a worse off spot, that's because you didn't choose to make things better. I chose to make things better because I'm like, I'm done with this. I'm done making the same mistakes. I took accountability for myself within the reasons why I believe betrayal came up, because I don't believe it's one person's fault whenever there's a betrayal.
Right.
There's always signs for both ways. There's always signs where you can stop, take a step back. I truly believe that. And if you're ignorant to it, then unfortunately, something's got to snap, something's got to break.
So let me ask you this then on that, because obviously it could be a little bit different, and you can't do anything with it. When and I'm saying that, let me finish. You can't do anything with it. That betrayal brought you to you are only faced with how you will go out at that point. And of course, I'm talking about this through ancient times mythology. That's not it anymore. I'm saying that in America as well, because I'm not going to speak on some countries where that is.
Right.
Because you betray
Yeah,
about
because we do have other audiences, which thank you for watching.
Yeah, and there are some places where you turn in your neighbor and they're gone. I mean, just think about World War II.
Yeah.
Turning in neighbors, that betrayal, and it was the end for some of them. Then we're watching all this stuff, reading books. Why didn't they fight back? Like you said, there's so many steps. When you treat people like they are worthless, like they are trash, like they don't deserve things, you start stripping them of their identity, of their rights. You forget what fighting even is. And so, what do you say for when those betrayals are the end? What should we do? Do you think? If we can't necessarily do something and grow, if this is my path, this is all I have, this is my limited time, what do you say to that?
I mean, I had no clue where my path was either. And me now is take a breath. I mean, if you're saying it's a life and death situation and we're in the old times, then I'm doing what is within my custom.
Or okay, so if we're living somewhere
And
today
that's
where
the
it feels
thing.
that.
Wherever the custom is, that's where I'm at. I believe myself, that's what I'm doing. Um, but that's because all the steps I've taken since my betrayal of finding out who I am on the inside,
Well, right.
not who I want. The things I want and desire are close in the same, but not. Like that was more physical Mark, not spiritual Mark.
Right.
And he, spiritual, wants way different things, has different reasons for wanting those things, that it'll be beneficial in different ways, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. Then I guess a last thing that I would put with that is if we're feeling like there is nothing else, find sanctuary. Like we have the abilities today's day and age to go on and to find, I mean, you can find any group online that would
Mhm.
fit you, that would accept you, that would protect you. Sometimes when we are lost and we aren't sure yet where my path goes, we need to retreat to a sanctuary.
Right. Well, I mean, I didn't know where mine was, and I got a random shot at doing something that I thought I would never do. And I didn't even know what it was about. I was just told, "Hey, the other person speaking to me said, "Hey, I went through a similar situation. I couldn't get over it. This helped me find, and here's a phone number." Cool. So I reached out. Well, actually, they actually went into a three-way text message thing, introduced me, which was even cooler, introduced me that way.
Uh,
And then I'm into a message feed. And that's how I got introduced to people that essentially saved me, helped save me, and pushed
well,
me to
and
where I'm at today.
your desires and your dreams changed.
Yeah.
Like you spoke, if you don't want to talk about it, you don't have to. But you spoke about how there was still that potential. That betrayal happened, but if we did change,
Hmm.
this could still be.
Yeah.
Because it's not just like betrayal. The love's gone.
Yeah.
That's that's why it hurts bad because we sometimes still love them
Yeah.
regardless. And so through your growth, that kind of identity way. So that identity still did accept that as potential, right?
Hmm.
You literally shed your skin
Yeah.
and stepped into it. And it reminds me of how you just said you were introduced through someone. If you watch videos where reptiles need help getting their skin off, that's what that just, someone's helping you get it kind of loose. So should you choose, and when you are ready, you could kind of take it off or slither through it. So that's kind of cool to think of it that way. And that doesn't mean that like that person is trash and they deserve it. You're new. That person doesn't fit your path. And so it's important to realize that sometimes, yes, that betrayal happens. I sat, I reflected, forgive you, but I forgive you for what we had and who I was. You are not welcome.
I'm not even only forgive, but thank,
Right.
because I like now who I am more than who I was.
I
And
like you more than
I
who I
like
saw before.
the opportunity that I have within my community and what I will be able to do within the community now more because of that. So yeah, thank you. Like truly, every Jane knows about me. I always say, thank the universe, thank God for all the bad stuff that's happened to you because it's pushing you towards more good stuff. And you really allow it to be that bad, crappy stuff that happens. And I've had some bad, crappy stuff happen to me in my life.
Yeah, those seem to be the things that I have a harder time
Once
being
you
as
find
kind
the
about.
reason, though, but once
Right.
you find the reason, you're
No,
going
no,
to
no, no.
laugh.
What I mean is like it's a little bit easier for me to forgive some things that were done to me because I know myself. I know how I influence some things, how I put myself in some situations. But to love someone deeply and then like to come in contact with someone that intentionally harmed them
Right.
and they try to cross those boundaries, it is hard for me. And I have to think of, I just completely zone them out. I do pretend that they're there because some just it's that kind of behavior that you're like, I do want to laugh because how you're behaving isn't appealing at all. Like, take accountability for how you're showcasing yourself in front of someone you've already been disrespectful to. And I'm talking deep betrayal. I'm not saying someone in public and I'm like, ew, check
Yeah.
yourself. I'm too good for you. No,
Right.
this is different. And so I do have to remember that sometimes of, look, Jane, who are you to restart that fight? Number one. Who are you to say that he shouldn't move on? forgive, right? Because we didn't forgive if we keep bringing it up. And that's me. And of course, I'm like, I wasn't there for it, so I don't need to forgive. But ultimately, you and I wouldn't be together had that person not showed who they were.
That's what I'm saying. Say thank you. You got to give them love. Be like, thanks. I appreciate you.
No,
You kept the pot warm.
no,
You
just
made the
kidding.
pot turn it into
And
an
sometimes,
amazing tea.
sometimes we need those things because, look, she found someone that fits what she is like
Yeah,
better.
like she's doing cool stuff
Right.
now.
And
Like that's cool for her. I'm happy for her.
100%.
Yeah.
And so I have to think about that too, but whatever. Whatever. Okay, gross. Okay, so our activity today is to release our resentment in writing.
Wow.
No explanation, okay? No judgment. Release your resentment. Who, what, when, where, why? If you want, minus the why, because we're not judging or explaining it to anyone. So if you want to write it for yourself, that's great. You're not explaining it to anyone. Okay?
But it does say without explanation. So,
So that's what I'm saying. If you are someone like us and we do it together,
right.
that no explanation means you're not explaining it to them. I do truly think that this is something that is better written down. If you're with someone, you say it once and then you burn it safely again. If not, you can just hold it, burn it. It's gone. You're not putting it out into the universe as anything other than,
You're releasing
let this resentment be my resentment and let it go.
yeah, and turn into a different type of energy out there. It doesn't stay the energy. It's just once you release it, it turns into whatever that next energy it needs to be. But it does
And I'm
go.
going to challenge some of you. I'm going to really challenge because both that I view, and my sister kind of reminded me of some stuff the other day.
Mhm.
There are people that I view that I have maybe unknowingly, maybe knowingly placed them on a higher pedestal. I have a higher opinion of them. I think that they're kinder, right?
Oh,
More well-rounded. Kindness is something that I do put people on pretty high pedestals for. I almost neglect to acknowledge anything else about them
yeah.
because I assume that's and when it is their driving characteristic, that's it. So I'm challenging those of you that truly are the kindest of hearts, who may not feel like you have resentment, to really dig deep and think, what is hiding inside me? Because even the kindest spirits will snap sometimes.
Mm.
That's deep, deep resentment somewhere. So even if you're sitting going, I don't have resentment towards anyone, then I want you to think of a time you did, a time where you didn't choose kindness, where you let that thought go through your head, whatever it may be. And I want you to focus on that because all of us have things. I'm saying that because we so often go, find something positive about yourself. Find something positive where sometimes we need to realize that there are certain emotions that we're neglecting, like resentment, that are huge driving force.
All emotions that we have them for a reason. Anger is there for a reason. We're mad that something happened. So why are we mad? Do we have this emotion? We have emotions for certain reasons. Find the cause of it, and then it's going to make more
Absolutely.
sense.
And then just remember, as our final thought today, as you do that, is truth enters through wounds that are finally acknowledged. So what is that thing that sets me off? Oftentimes I feel like it's a parent. Because what is it about strangers disrespecting you, but then your parent just changes their tone and we fly off the handle? And I'm saying that to me. So shout out to my mom and dad tolerated me flying off the handle. My dad thinks it's hilarious. He changes his tone and gets me upset. My mom, I've been pretty terrible with that. It's because I hadn't acknowledged my own wounds of what I perceived things to be. I thought that I had healed from some of this stuff and gotten better. And I have in some ways, but it took me having to really dig in to find out what it was. And it was me, and it always will be you. It will always be you because you can't control that other person. Can't control the way that like people talk to me. Ultimately, I can't. But I control how quickly I react, how
Yeah.
quickly I assume based on your tone of going.
Right.
That's me,
Mm.
100%.
Yeah, because if you allow that person to change their tone and then they see that you don't react, where yourself is just sits there calmly, if you start doing that, like if you're that type of person that chooses to react right away and you start to like try it and experiment with yourself, and it might be challenging at first, but try to let them change their tone and go through it and just breathe through it and see what happens and see if they come back down. And if they don't, then let them just like
Right.
try to just let them be that.
And it took me like acknowledging this to
Mhm.
really truly realize that, and it's something I'm continuously learning, realize that my parents weren't talking down to me. They're older and wiser and all this stuff. They don't say that because they truly deep down believe it with everything. It's because they just love me so much that they just want to hit me across the head sometimes. And they don't. They don't.
Unfortunately.
But it's just like they changed their tone because it's like when you love someone so much
It's like,
that
why
you're
don't you listen?
frustrated when they put themselves in harm's way, when they're not getting the lesson.
Yeah.
We get frustrated, and that's when the tone changes because I'm upset with you, but I love you so deeply that I'm trying to help. And that was a huge lesson I had to learn. And I'm still learning it. Obviously, like this is the farthest a relationship has ever gone, for me. And it's longest, I was on and off with my first partner for like 4 years. But what I'm saying was that this is already farther than that other one went, spiritually, emotionally, all that stuff.
Mhm.
And now I'm getting to learn that lesson to your parents. Because, your in-laws, they have that same tone shift because they're doing the same thing but protecting like theirs. Trying to speak to you. So I've been kind of experimenting with that too. And I haven't had any cases where I'm like, ew, what? It's not like that. I get the opportunity to appreciate and love my parents more through like learning more from yours too. It was really cool.
That's really awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, and so I just want to end on that. Today it was the betrayal, but sometimes we just have to acknowledge the wounds, the truth of them. Whether we are the betrayer, whether we are the betrayed, whether it's the end and we're seeking sanctuary, we're seeking away, or it's the place where you start, where the old you is shed away and you get to step into an entirely new hero's journey for yourself. And that's exciting.
Yeah.
So with that, we're going to leave you guys and see you tomorrow for March 16th. We're 2 days away from St. Patrick's Day, which will be a
Okay, hold on though. So we're talking about, I don't like to totally interrupt
No,
because
go
you
ahead.
lose your train of thought. But we have a lot of people that are not in the United States or that might not be
Practice
within.
that culture.
Yeah, but there's other stories, I'm assuming, on that
Oh, yeah.
day that aren't just St. Patrick's Day. So it's St. Patrick's Day for this, whatever we know it
So I'm going to
as.
be honest. When I said that we were going to acknowledge St. Patrick's Day, I didn't actually put a story about St. Patrick's Day.
Okay, so it's not going to be. So just know on St. Patrick's Day, we'll just say woohoo.
And
Side note, but it is about other stuff.
And that's simply because a lot
Because that's what we're
of
trying to
different
do in this,
celebrations happen. Yes. And
we're trying to
we're
get to the
going
root
with
of it. There's a reason St. Patrick's Day is a thing, but these stories were older, more than likely.
Oh, yeah, and we're looking into the themes surrounding the seasons and everything as well.
Right.
So we'll say like happy St. Patrick's Day and stuff.
Yeah.
And obviously there have been some holidays that we've missed that I haven't acknowledged. It's mainly because we're focusing on the concepts within the seasons versus the boom, this is what this day is for.
Right.
And of course, like Valentine's Day, we talked a little bit about that, but we talked about different cultures. When we get closer to like Christmas, for example, it's not a week of Christmas. It's what is the star? What does the star symbolize in different cultures?
Right.
So we're looking at the aspects, the trees, whatever. So please realize that it's a worldwide culture that we're trying to acknowledge.
Yeah.
Just not
Yeah,
just
like if you see
practices.
this right here, this is actually really cool. It's called the Myths Atlas. We were in Barnes and Noble and I saw this. I don't remember, was it in the kids section? I was like, we need this book because it's just super cool. Like just all the little, it shows the maps of all the little types of little deities and myths and
And
legends.
where they are and
often
what the earth looked like to those
yeah,
cultures,
and
and
what
it's
so
cool.
it's fun because we actually use that type of stuff in our books.
And if you look at it, and I'm gonna tie this into our book before we go, if you look at a lot of those, it's flat earth, but it's kind of a mirror if you really look at it.
Yeah.
Because when you see the underworld and how they're functioning, you have to flip it upside down to see how they're functioning correctly.
Mm.
So in a lot of these cultures, it's just a mirror cycle.
Well, yeah, just everything in this reality is because I mean, look at a tree, the roots and then the top. If you
Yeah,
look at them, they're identical. You
that's
look
why
at
so many cultures center around the tree of life in one way or another.
right. So it does mix in if you truly look at it that way. But those discussions for a whole nother time.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so we have, the exile tomorrow, and then I was gonna say with St. Patrick's Day, it's a little bit of a we have a revelation finally.
Mm.
So we do put some significance, they're all significant days, but we do put some kind of significance to that day in particular, we're trying to. So with that, that's all that we have for the betrayal, and remember to think about who changed me through betrayal.
Hmm.
Was it an old version of me? Or was it someone else? And then just release your resentment in writing safely if you can. Burn it, discard it, however it may be. Just say, "This isn't me anymore." And that's all that we have for you guys today. So we'll see you for tomorrow.
All right, guys. Thanks. Love you. See you tomorrow.
You love them.
Yeah, I do.